My name is Jacqueline E. Smith, and I am the author of Cemetery Tours. Some secrets are best kept laid to rest. At least that's as far as Michael Sinclair is concerned. At 27, he has spent his entire life pretending that the ghosts he encounters on a daily basis do not exist. Now, if only the dead would let him rest in peace. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem likely, especially after Kate Avery and her ailing brother, Gavin, move in next door. Kate and Gavin are haunted, and not by a dearly departed loved one. This spirit is aggressive, menacing, and harboring a deep resentment toward Gavin. Now, for the sake of friends and strangers alike, Michael must choose between preserving his cherished anonymity and leading his aid to those for whom all hope seems lost.
Book Lovers Unite! I'm Demethius Jackson, and you're listening to the Chapter 1 podcast. The greatest stories ever written all begin with Chapter 1. In each episode, our guest authors will share their first chapters with you. Happy Halloween, everyone! The holidays are here! And in this particularly spooky episode, I'm going to be speaking with author Jacqueline E. Smith, Jackie. She's an exceptional author at Wintrell Publishing who happens to write ghost stories and young adult fiction. Today, she'll be reading from her book entitled Cemetery Tours, and we'll be swapping ghost stories and other unexplained phenomena throughout this episode. So definitely stay tuned because it all starts right now.
He'd seen them for as long as he could remember. They'd never scared him, really. When he was younger, he hadn't known that there was anything different about them. By the time he was old enough to figure out that no one else could see them, he was also old enough to realize that being dead didn't turn people into monsters. It just meant that most of them were lonely. This guy scared him. He was tall, almost as tall as Michael, who towered above most people at 6'2", and muscular, something that Michael couldn't boast. His dark hair was buzzed short, like an army crew cut, and he wore dark navy jeans, a gray t-shirt, and an old black jacket. And intimidating as his physical appearance seemed, nothing compared to the fury and repulsion with which he stared at Gavin Avery. Michael? Kate's voice snapped Michael out of his stupor. Are you all right? Yeah, fine. He wasn't fine, though. His voice had gone hoarse, the same way it always did whenever he tried to choke out a lie. He cleared his throat and assisted Kate and Gavin setting the mattress against the wall. No matter how he tried to convince himself otherwise, he could feel the stranger's eyes boring into the back of his neck. Although he didn't think the ghost had noticed him staring, he didn't want to draw any sort of attention to himself. This was the reason he never complained about the strange noises or feelings of discontent that plagued the other residents of Building 17. He'd always been a terrible liar, and anyone observing him too carefully would realize that when he said he had no explanation for the weird things that happened, he wasn't telling the truth. Once a ghost figured out he could see them, it followed him home. Over the years, he'd gotten better at ignoring them, tuning them out, but there was always the occasional slip-up. He'd respond to an otherwise unheard voice, or accidentally make eye contact with someone who'd grown accustomed to being invisible. That was when the trouble started. Michael had learned the hard way that nothing good came from interfering in the affairs of the afterlife. He'd always been careful not to let anyone know what he could see, but everyone, from his classmates to his own mother, knew that there was something wrong with him. Their suspicions were somewhat confirmed after he was arrested as a suspect in a murder investigation at the beginning of his senior year of high school. The charges were quickly dropped, but still, the damage had been done. Now, whenever spirits followed him home, he ignored them. This was frustrating for all parties involved, but especially for the ghosts. They knew he could see them, but when he didn't acknowledge them, they grew agitated. Some of them went crazy, throwing pots and pans around or heaving books off of the shelves in desperate attempts to gain his attention. They usually gave up and moved out after a week or so of being ignored. But some of them, the more annoying ones, tended to linger. Some acted out of spite, some out of boredom. Some flat out refused to move on for reasons that Michael could never figure out. Maybe they were waiting for someone, or maybe they were scared of crossing over. Michael could accept that. Still, he would have preferred they not make his apartment building their halfway house. Thinking back to everything Kate had told him about Gavin, his mysterious ailment, even the break-in, Michael knew he should have realized that those were the products of a haunting. He'd experienced the same symptoms of dizziness and exhaustion on multiple occasions. Spirits thrived on energy. It was how they moved heavy objects or manifested themselves to those who otherwise wouldn't be able to see them. They took this energy from any source they could find: electricity, radio waves, even the living, especially the living. Michael had always been particularly susceptible to their attacks. He had a theory that since his mind was already so open to the spirits, it made it easier for them to drain his energy. He wasn't sure if that was what was happening or if all the physical exertion was finally catching up with him. But all of a sudden, he felt dizzy and lightheaded. He broke into a cold sweat, and without warning, the ground began to tilt.
To all my book lovers out there, do yourself a favor and check out Half Price Books. With more than 120 stores across the country, Half Price Books is America's largest family-owned bookstore. At any of their locations, you can buy and sell new and used books, music, movies, games, electronic devices, even collectibles. And Half Price Books has been dedicated to literacy and environmental initiatives since 1972. They give back to the community by supporting hundreds of worthy projects, including this one, and have been the leading drive behind programs like the Million Books Donation Project and the Half Pint Library Book Drive. Find a Half Price Books location near you by checking out their website at www.hpb.com. There are a lot of talented individuals out there, including you, so why not share your talent with the world? Well, you can with Sunfire Talent. Sunfire Talent is an internet-based talent agency focused on generating mass exposure for everyday people with amazing skills. The company's mission is to help talented people with limited resources showcase their abilities and be discovered on a global stage. Check out featured artists and be featured yourself if you have the skills on sunfiretalent.com. That's sunfiretalent.com. Hey, Jackie, how's it going?
Fine, thanks. How's it going with you, AJ?
Pretty good. With this being the ghostly witching season, I was very excited to speak with you today, especially about your book since you write ghost stories. So, cemetery tours.
Yeah.
Okay. I've met fantasy writers. I've met romance writers, general fiction, nonfiction, but you, I think, are the very first paranormal writer I've ever met.
Really?
How did you even fall into this genre in the first place?
The ghost stories kind of happened because I lost someone very close to me, and I started writing to make myself feel better. But of course, I'd always had the interest. And the more I wrote, the more I realized, hey, I could actually make this into something really cool. You know, it just started out as an interest, became therapy almost. Yeah. And it ended up being something I really loved.
Well, what was it about Halloween that really appealed to you, as opposed to like some of the other holidays?
My mom raised my sister and me on Halloween. This has always been her favorite time of the year. So we grew up watching all these ghost documentaries and paranormal investigation shows. You know, Christmas, of course, is another big one, but Halloween was just the time where you could always use your imagination. There was always magic. There was always so much fun stuff to do. There was pumpkin carving. There were costumes. There were jumping into big piles of leaves. I mean, everything about it was just so magical and freeing to me.
Are any of your creepy encounters within the story based on anything that you've encountered within your own life?
I have had some really interesting and cool creepy experiences. My favorite one, I had given a talk at the Colony Library a few years ago, and this is around Halloween. And afterward, they invited me on a history tour of the area. And of course, I said yes, because I found it so cool. And we ended up at this old cemetery. And near the outskirts, there were trees. And there was this one tree that kept grabbing attention. And I kept thinking, what is it about this tree? There's nothing over there. I don't understand why it keeps calling me. And finally, before we left, I decided, okay, I'm going to go over and see what's going on with this tree. And I walk over there, and sure enough, there is a broken gravestone underneath the tree. And etched in the stone were my initials. My blood ran cold when I saw that. It was so weird.
That's eerie.
Really cool, but really weird.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced similar. Well, I grew up in DC pretty much my entire life. I've only lived in the Dallas area for, I guess, a couple of years now.
Okay.
And so I used to cut through Arlington Cemetery to get to the subway station from my neighborhood. And it has such an interesting history there itself. But as you're walking through there, and especially in the early mornings when you're trying to get to school, you know, you do sometimes feel like there are areas that are drawing you to them. And you know, I never really put any stock into it until I got older. And after a few people I knew that passed away, and I started feeling kind of a similar sensation, you know, that maybe I'm being drawn to this particular room or this memory keeps popping up in my head. It gets really crazy and a little creepy, especially at night when you're trying to go to sleep.
Yeah. I can't sleep with my bedroom door open because I know I'm going to see something. The one time that I did come face to face with this entity or this shadow figure, and it wasn't that scary, like, I think it's out to harm me. I don't think it was at all. It just startled me, and I startled it, I think, by jumping. I just know it felt bad for scaring me, and I haven't seen it since. And again, that's the only time I've ever really seen a full-bodied apparition, if you will, shadow figure. It didn't have very defined shape. It was just this white, shadowy mist figure.
I'm with you 100%. One of the one of the reasons that I was really fascinated with your book is because, you know, I've experienced unexplained phenomena my entire life. I'm not
that's so cool.
Yeah, I'm not claiming to be psychic or anything like that. But I think that when you're open to it, you are literally open to it.
Oh, absolutely. I had one experience with the Ouija board, and I will not touch them again.
Me too. That's so crazy.
I will not go near a Ouija board, because if you ask for it, it's going to come.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, geez. I wish my friend CJ was here, because we had a wicked Ouija board experience that ended up with us being in the woods trying to bury the damn thing.
What? Oh, my goodness. I want to hear this story.
Yeah. It's an offline kind of story. But it was the middle of the winter, and we're trying to bury this thing with metal forks that we stole from the school cafeteria. And of course, the ground is frozen, so it's not working.
This sounds like a TV episode or a short story that needs to be written.
No, it was freshman year of college.
Oh my God.
Maybe I will turn it into an episode one day.
You should turn it. There are so many horror anthologies out there. That sounds amazing. Yeah. In fact, there's one coming out called Lurking in the Woods that's seeking submissions next year. That might be it.
Oh, man.
A Ouija board buried in the woods.
So you actually grew up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There is a lot of haunted history in this area, especially over in Fort Worth in the Stockyards.
I know. Actually, okay.
No, go for it.
I was going to say, I actually took a ghost tour with my friend last year for her birthday around Halloween.
That was my question.
We wanted a ghost tour of, we drove past the Stockyards. We didn't stop there. I would love to, however, but we stopped at this one old village. And of course I took my camera and I'm taking pictures, and I caught this one light anomaly that I can't explain. So I was excited about that.
Yeah, it's just so interesting, that area, because I mean, for one, you go to these places that are like commercialized to look like the Wild West, but when you go to the Stockyards, it is the Wild West.
It is.
That is who it is. And then when you start looking at the history of it, with Bonnie and Clyde being there, and I even heard stories that the mob used to dump bodies back there. It's crazy. Oh
my goodness. Yeah, well, my dad is from Fort Worth. He's not as much of a believer as I think my mom and my sister.
Do you pull any of that history into your own writings?
I try to. I mean, I want my books to be as accurate as possible. A lot of the places I'll make up. There's certain places in the books where I will, for example, there's a bridal barn in the first book. This place does not actually exist, but it was based off of a place that I once shot a wedding at. I used to be a part-time wedding photographer. So a lot of it is based off of places that I have been to or experienced or dreamt up. Some of them are real places. For example, in the third book, the crew takes the trip to Showman's Rest in Hugo, Oklahoma, which is a circus cemetery.
A circus cemetery?
A circus-themed cemetery. There are, because Hugo, Oklahoma is called Circus City, USA. And I thought, what's creepier than a haunted circus or a haunted carnival? So when I was researching places to set the third book, I came across Hugo, Oklahoma, and found, I think it's Mount Olivet Cemetery. And it has a portion dedicated to all the circus performers who have traveled through there. And I actually went and visited it this past summer, and it's very beautiful, actually, very peaceful.
Mm-hmm.
But in my book, I made it a little creepier.
Oh, man. And that's a pretty current topic given the clown sightings that we've been having in our area lately.
Yeah. I hope all those clowns out there remember that Texas is an open carry state.
Yes, ma'am. I live right smack in downtown Dallas, so I haven't been fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to see a clown sighting. But I did see a picture of one online hanging on the back of a moving bus.
I saw that just today. Oh, heck no. Oh, no. The ones that creep me out are when they talk about clowns showing up in your backyard. That is my biggest fear, that I'm going to look out the window and see something creeping around my house. I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, nor should you be.
Especially a clown.
Yeah. Oh, so getting back to your book.
Yes.
Cemetery Tours is a book that's filled with probably as many secrets as it is filled with ghosts. And it seems even the living and the dead are all trying to protect those secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got to notice that they kind of all revolve around this main character, Michael Sinclair. What in the world is going on with this guy? You kind of alluded to it in your excerpt, but it seems like there's something underneath the surface going on with him.
His whole life, all he's wanted is to fit in and be normal. But he has his reasons for wanting to keep the fact that he can see these ghosts a secret. And I guess in a way, it's not even so much about the living and the dead and ghosts, whether you believe in ghosts or not, but it's how do you live denying a part of yourself that is so strong, that is such a part of your identity. And I think it applies to really anyone. For Michael, it's just ghosts. But, for me, it would be if I tried to deny the fact that I love to write or that I love to read. How would I, it would be so difficult to exist denying something like that.
And I'm guessing at some point he's going to have to deal with that or come to terms with it. Oh,
yeah. This whole series is kind of about him coming to terms with it. And I think with each book, he gets a little closer to accepting that, hey, this is how you are. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. That's his problem. His whole life, he's viewed it as a curse. And he's never been able to see that maybe he does have this so-called gift for a reason.
It's almost like discovering you have a mutant power and denying it.
Exactly. He thinks of himself as a freak, whereas his friends think it's just the coolest thing in the world. They think he should embrace it, but he resists it every step of the way. He is very reluctant.
Another thing I thought was interesting about your story was in the midst of this kick-ass ghost tale, you somehow managed to squeeze a little romance in there.
Yeah.
What's happening with that?
I grew up reading, along with the ghost stories. I also grew up reading Meg Cabot and Nicholas Sparks, and I'm a girl who likes romance. And also, I beat Michael up a lot. I need to give him a cute girlfriend.
But I think he's got a rough go. I think he's competing with like a celebrity ghost hunter.
Yes, Luke Rayner.
Yeah, he's got an uphill battle.
Yeah. Luke's pretty charming, and he's very persistent.
You also have another book series that's geared towards young adults.
I do. Called Boy Band, and that's about all you need to know. I'm just kidding. It's actually about a girl, and she's in love with her best friend, but her best friend happens to be a member of the world's hottest boy band, The Kind of September. And I'll be honest with you, I did not intend to ever publish this book. I started it as a national novel writing challenge, a national novel writing month.
Are you talking about NaNoWriMo?
Yeah, NaNoWriMo. And see, I'd never participated before, but a friend of mine was like, oh, you should do it. It's so much fun. It's so cool. You track your words, you sign up, you make a profile. And so I'm sitting there thinking, okay, well, this could be an opportunity for me to write something a little different, something kind of fun. And my sister and I, we love boy bands. Who doesn't? Grew up in the 90s. What are you going to do? And so I had no plot ideas, absolutely nothing. I started with a blank sheet of paper and I just kept writing. And my sister read it and she goes, you need to finish this and you need to publish it. And it's turned out to be my bestseller on Kindle.
Right on.
So, yeah. And I've had people ask me, how in the world are you writing ghost stories and boy band stories.
That was my very next question. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. One of my favorite authors is Meg Cabot, and she writes everything from ghost hunters to the Princess Diaries to adult books to vampires. She writes everything, and that's the kind of writer I've always wanted to be. I want to write a little bit of everything because I like so many different genres.
Yeah, why limit yourself if you can write?
Exactly.
If you have the ability.
Exactly.
So are you simultaneously working on both of these series, or do you have certain times when you work on either one or the other? Because they're so different.
I know they are. And I have a timeline in my head of like, I tried to release a Cemetery Tours book and then a boy band book and then a Cemetery Tours and then a boy band. But right now I'm working on both of the next books, which I have 3 books in each series. So I'm working on the 4th book in both series. Mm-hmm. And I'm also working on 2 new projects. And then I'm working on 2 new short stories.
Can you share a little bit about the new projects?
One of the new projects is a standalone novel, and it's about a writer, and it's going to be a little creepy. It's going to be more adult than the other books that I've worked on. And the second new project is kind of a spin-off of the boy band series. It's not going to be any of the same characters, but it's going to be another young adult novel. I've just had so much fun writing that, and I had another idea for a different setting. It is also a lot of fun to explore new characters and new storylines. But a lot of the time, especially with stories like Cemetery Tours or with drama, with any kind of drama, it takes a lot of energy because you pour so much of yourself and so many emotions into these characters and into what's going on with them. Yeah. That it can be actually physically exhausting.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I get criticism from other writers because they're like, AJ, you really should be writing every day, at least for a little bit of time. And I don't really work that way. If I'm not feeling it, I just don't feel it.
And there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now the issue for me comes when I do finally sit down and write that first sentence, because then the entire story usually comes out and then it just dominates and overwhelms my life for like 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
And it's like, where's AJ? We haven't seen him. I think he died.
Yeah.
So where can readers find you online?
You can find me online at www.windtrailpublishing.com. And you can also find all of my books on Amazon and on Kindle and on barnesandnoble.com.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you so much, AJ. And I hope you have a happy Halloween.
And with that, we'll wrap up another episode. That was a pretty fun conversation. Very interesting stuff. Jackie told me after the recording that she and some friends were going out of town this weekend to actually go ghost hunting. How cool is that? It's those type of experiences and first-hand accounts that makes her book so awesome. If you have any questions or comments about this or any episode, or you know an author who you think would be a good fit, let me know. Connect with me on Facebook or send an email to info@ch1podcast.com. That's it for me. Till next time.